great show. I'm Noelle, and today I have a super special guest. He's a pediatrician in Los Angeles. It's Dr. Alejandro. Hi, Dr. Alejandro. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so I always start every single interview asking the person how quarantine is going, but you're obviously not in quarantine. You are working right now.
Yeah.
How's that been going into the hospital and working during this time?
Well, I think it's probably a lot of the same considerations that other people are taking into account. I still try to quarantine when I'm not working, so I'm always thinking, how often should I be washing my hands, especially when I'm coming home from the hospital, making sure I kind of have a place to set apart my hospital clothes and then shower and wash my hands and then kind of go about the rest of my day.
It's just really interesting because children aren't getting sick right now. And I think that's kind of really relieving for a lot of parents and a lot of kids. But how can kids stay safe still while this is all going on, knowing that even if they can't get sick, maybe they could spread it to someone else?
This is a good time when parents can engage children and kind of give them responsibilities to help them feel like they have some power. And so teaching them, how and why they're washing their hands, to new skills like covering their faces with tissues with sleeves when they cough and sneeze. And then, for families that are larger or for people who are walking around the neighborhood or areas where they might encounter other people, working on those 6 feet apart guidelines, making sure that everybody's outside of that, and trying to make it a fun game. Or I'm sure you and I remember from being kids, you don't want to step on the lava type of games, and so those coming up with those kind of imaginary scenarios can help with keeping them outside of that 6-foot perimeter.
So how can kids help during this pandemic? Because I know there's they say wash your hands, wear a mask. What other things can kids do to kind of take charge?
Well, kids can do so much to help. I know it feels like you're stuck at home all day with mom and dad and your siblings, and you're out of school and you want to see your friends, but just doing that alone is contributing a big part to preventing the spread of these germs. So already kids are heroes just for staying home.
So besides for washing their hands and, wearing a mask, what are ways that kids can stay healthy by just staying inside?
Well, I think what we're touching upon here is mental health. And we were talking a little bit earlier about the anxiety or kind of stressors of staying inside too long. I think there's a lot of things kids can do with their parents to kind of stay focused and engaged in learning opportunities at home. So one of the options is, contact your teachers. I think a lot of school districts have been hopefully pretty good about sending out learning materials, but certainly if students have particular teachers that they identify with, getting in touch with them by email or however they've designated in order to kind of get pointed in the right direction about other educational materials is a good idea. There's a lot of free websites like PBS Kids and lots of museums right now that are offering free educational tutorials on a daily basis. So making a schedule about when to tune into those kinds of things. So then you're incorporating hopefully more learning activities and educational shows and experiences into the everyday kind of curriculum, so to speak, although I know it's now a lot less formal than when they were in school. Another thing about staying healthy at home in terms of mental health for children is just being connected, and it's so hard to do when we're stuck at home. So really using social media to have kids check in with other family members. They might be wondering about why family hasn't gone to grandma and grandpa for a long time, as adults worrying about spreading it to higher risk older populations. So really using your social media to stay in touch with family, and again, kind of focusing on that rather than a lot of the grim news that we see every day. And again, for parents, just keeping a schedule is really, the biggest thing we recommend is, the loss of kind of a routine can be really hard for children because that just kind of makes the situation more alienating or stranger than it already is. And so having a set routine of, this is when we're going to wake up, we're going to have breakfast, we're going to do lessons during this time, and then you get to watch these shows or kind of museum fun education ideas, nap at this time, dinner at this time, so on and so forth. But sticking to a routine.
Okay, so I talked to a bunch of kids about what they knew about coronavirus, and a lot of them said it was green. Is that true? And I know you're not an expert, but is the coronavirus green?
I might not be an expert, but I don't know if anybody can be an expert on color, and I'll tell you why when it comes to things like coronavirus. Um, Coronavirus is extremely small, and I think most kids will agree that we've seen all these parents and other adults talking about something that we've never actually been able to witness with our own eyes. So how do we know it's real? And the way we can look at coronavirus is by using a microscope, and specifically for germs that small, we use something called an electron microscope. The problem with the electron microscope, though, is we really can't see color with it, so the images actually come out in black and white. If you look at an article or a picture online, you might see the virus colored, but that's actually what we say colorized, meaning somebody colored it in on a computer after the fact. So as far as we know at this moment, I think anybody's best guess is black and white, because that's all we can really look at, or some shade of gray. But I think green is as good a guess as any, so let's go with green.
Great, I love that. So I know that there's a lot of cities that do the 7 p.m. clap. I know in Los Angeles we do the 8 p.m. clap. Have you ever been outside during that time, and do you soak it in?
Oh, I actually have never heard of it. Can you explain it in more detail?
Oh my goodness, you need to go outside. So at 8 p.m. every night in Los Angeles, in like really densely populated places where they don't have a lot of time to go outside, people will cheer for you. And you'll go in like the Silver Lake Hills, and you'll just hear like pots and pans and cheering and yelling. And it's every night for all the medical workers and all the, frontline people that are out there working.
Oh, well, that's great. I actually hadn't heard of that. You're right that I need to get outside more. It's been mostly a work home, and the balance sometimes falls out when we're in critical situations like this. But I live pretty close to this Silver Lake Hill.
You have to go
walk over there. Well, no, that's great. That's very generous of people. But again, everybody is a hero in this situation, as long as they're doing their part to prevent the spread of the disease. So it's not just us. And this is what we signed up for, and we're doing our jobs the best we can. And certainly, my colleagues over in more affected states, and nurses, respiratory therapists, people who are really frequently in contact and on the front line emergency departments, I'll clap for them in the 8 p.m. clap. I didn't know it was a thing, but everybody staying at home and again doing their part to follow these guidelines deserves a clap too. So it should be a clap for everyone, I guess, is how I feel.
Clap for everyone. Dr. Alejandro, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Sure, it was my pleasure, and I'm happy to come back anytime.
Great. Thank you so much for watching the Not So Late Show. I'm Noelle Lara. Good night, and wash your hands.